buenos días, muy buenas tardes, muy buenas noches. Desde donde estés, te invitamos a la sesión especial de hoy de Madrid Singularity, donde traemos las ideas, los proyectos, los descubrimientos más apasionantes del momento de todo el mundo en español. Pero hoy vamos a comenzar con una serie de entrevistas en inglés con traducción simultánea por Zoom al español. Así que la entrevista va a ser en inglés con la traducción para la posteridad en español y podremos recibir preguntas tanto en YouTube como en Zoom en español o en inglés. Y hoy en esta primera oportunidad tenemos una estrella que se llama Liz Parrish. Y ahora voy a cambiar a inglés. So, hello, Liz. We are so happy to have you, Liz Parrish, with us for this first time that we are holding this event bilingual in English, but with subtitles in Spanish in real time in Zoom, but also we are transmitting through YouTube, and then we are going to put in different channels so that we spread these ideas of our group, Madrid Singularity, into the Spanish-speaking world with top people like you. Since you don't speak Spanish yet, we will speak in English for you. And we are really excited.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate being here. And finally, I'll have perfect Spanish. So I love the help of AI with helping me achieve that for you.
Absolutely. So, well, let me first of all say that I have had the pleasure of knowing Liz for about 10 years. We met in 2015 in a conference in Palm Springs, in California, where there were fantastic speakers like also Ray Kurzweil and many other people, Liz Parrish, of course, that was just starting her path into gene therapies, and she was going to go to her first therapy. And since that time, since 2015, this has been growing. She created her company, Bioviva, that is working with gene therapies. And she will tell all of that to us, what is happening with Bioviva and with herself, because remember, she is patient zero for biological rejuvenation with gene therapies. She's the person who has brought this to the world through self-experimentation. Some people say biohacking. So you are a fantastic biohacker, and we all admire you. I mean, what you have done really is incredible. You have a lot of courage. You are very bold, and we appreciate what you are doing for you, for medicine, for longevity, and for the world. So you are also a fantastic human being, a really nice, kind person. And so that is why we are beginning with you, Liz. This is an honor for Madrid Singularity to start this series with you. And now it is all up to you, Liz. First a short presentation, then questions from the public, and let's keep on learning. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be the first, especially for this translation project. I think that's wonderful. The more of the world that we can reach, the more we can educate, and the more people will be really excited about the future. So I am going to get started with a presentation, and I'm going to share it here, and I hope you can see it. So my company is Bioviva, and yes, I think that we kind of blur the lines. We blurred the lines of what is a company, what is biohacking, and how can we change regulations. And I think that at first it seems like a big blur of things, but actually it really makes sense. As we work into regenerative medicine, and especially in the gene therapy space that I'm going to be talking about today, for the first time in the world, we're making drugs that people want to take. And that makes a big difference, because historically we have only taken prescription medicine when we're so sick that we have to take it. And rarely will you meet someone that says, oh, I take 5 prescription medicines and I feel great. New medicine is going to change the way that we think about taking medicine substantially. We're going to start taking medicine that does make us feel great and actually keeps us from getting sick. This company was really a call out to the world that research had been sitting for decades on medicine that was reversing signs of aging and disease in animals, and it wasn't translating to humans. And it wasn't because we didn't have enough animal data. There just didn't seem to be a road that regulators understood for this type of medicine that would help people live longer and healthier. So our mission was to actually bring that to the world. So in 2015, Bioviva was incorporated just to do that, to essentially bring this technology to the world. And why would we do that? It's because we have a very limited health span. Even though we're a very long-lived species, we don't live very much above this red line of consumption that you're seeing. We're slow to develop. We use a lot of resources when we're young. We cost a lot of money as children. Finally, we rise above the line of labor and consumption, where we're actually making enough money to pay for our own needs. And very quickly, we drop down below that again, and we spend a lot of time in ill health. So we really need to spread this blue line out. And how that actually looks when we look at lifespan and health span is like this. Your lifespan is how many years that you live. Your health span is how many years you live in good health. And remember, the first 25 years is just education and the use of resources. Finally, you're entering the workforce, and if you're lucky, you get to live to work till 65, produce till 65. The graph would say you're dropping below consumption at that point. And then you spend a lot of time in ill health. And actually, even though this sounds very much like an economic problem, it's also a societal problem, a social problem, and a very distressful problem, because we start to see the loved ones, people that we care very much about, start to die and degrade. And so we have something called mortality priming, where humans as a species start to grab assets. We start to think only for ourselves and our families, and we don't share the wealth with others. We stop developing technologies for the entire world, and we just only think of ourselves. So this is actually a very dark time for humans. We need to keep ourselves in this production phase where we're giving to the world, we're making better technology so we can live better and longer and have more resources with each other. So when we look at regenerative medicine and something like gene therapy, we can actually take this health line and we can not only extend it, but we could maybe even extend this trajectory, this vector into the future quite significantly, because if we can create a body that regenerates faster than it degenerates, which is what aging is cellular degeneration over time, then we could actually live an extremely long time in health and really bring to the world so much more than we can in our limited years. I'm going to go over this slide really quickly. Aging-associated diseases are the biggest killer on the planet. They kill over 36 million people just this year. So if you listen to any statistics on any single disease, there is no disease bigger than this. It kills 74% of the global population now, and 15 million people will die prematurely this year of aging-associated diseases. The graph on the bottom just shows the biggest killers in aging-associated diseases, and that how traditional medicine has worked is to give you an inhaler or give you a pill that just affects one downstream effect of a disease, a symptom of a disease, and that doesn't stop that disease, but if even you could stop one of these diseases, let's say some drug came out that stopped all of cancer, humans would only live 2 years longer on average, the whole population, because you will die of heart disease or diabetes or another one of these aging-associated diseases. So we really need to treat these all as symptoms of a disease called biological aging and treat it all at one time. And we do have the methodology now in our scientific toolbox to start doing that. I'm going to go ahead and let this slide play a little bit because this is what gene therapy is. The slide's not playing, sorry. Gene therapy is essentially the delivery of genetic material through vectors that take that genetic material into the nucleus of the cell. And they drop that piece of DNA in the cell with its promoter, and then it starts to upregulate proteins. And this is one of the first times in history outside of nature doing this to us, because nature is very good at gene therapy and has been for tens of thousands of years. But this is the first time in history that we can make our cells drug factories. We don't have to ingest drugs that then affect our body all over, maybe some negative side effects and some positive ones. Your cells actually become the drug factory for the proteins that make you healthier. And it's a beautiful technology, and because it's so streamlined, when these type of technologies get into the regulatory framework, they get passed through very quickly, less than 6 years. So compared to small molecules at 15 years, they're quite quick. So this is the gene material going in and then transcribing the protein, and these are typically given by IV or intramuscular injection. We do specialize in intranasal injection, and there is inhaled. So when people ask you about gene therapy, they'll often say, oh, gene therapies don't exist yet. That's future technology. But they not only exist, there are all of these listed in front of you are approved gene therapies. And this isn't even the gene therapies in the cancer space. In cancer treatments, there are probably 45 approved gene therapies. These are only in the monogenic disease space because this is the area we work in. It's called somatic cell delivery, and these are all approved. So if you know someone with a disease on this list, they can get access to a gene therapy and it could cure their disease. So that's exciting. Again, gene therapies are typically given by injection or intravenously. You just sit and have the gene therapy dripped through a serum into your body. And we're working on intranasal, where we're specialists in that. Inhaled treatments are coming for things like cystic fibrosis, and there's also topical gene therapies for rare skin disorders. And that's been a beautiful consequence of the development of the technology. Now here we see on the right is a boy with muscular dystrophy. He has a very hard time climbing the stairs. These children have atrophy in their muscles and they cannot grow new and substantial muscle fibers. This is the same boy 3 months after gene therapy. This is with a gene called follistatin. It's been through safety and efficacy. You'll see it used often, sometimes in medical tourism and in different modalities in the U.S. and peptides and different serums because people are very excited about it because it is a dose-dependent gene therapy, but it hasn't ever shown any negative consequences. It seems to have been safe in every model, including non-human primates, and has a great trajectory for treating things like type 2 diabetes. It seems to protect against 3 types of cancer, including prostate. It increases bone density because when you strengthen your muscles, you strengthen your bones. It helps with immune system regulation. It influences stem cells. And of course, you know, it is a protector against neurodegeneration as well. So all the genes that we work with have this incredible safety profile, and you know, we just as a company just could not believe that humans didn't have access to these, especially humans who are dying. It really makes no sense. So we started working with adeno-associated virus in 2015. I was the first test subject for 2 gene therapies to treat aging that year, after Jose and I met at the Brink conference in Palm Springs. And it's a great viral vector delivery method. It doesn't integrate into the genome except for in very safe sites and very small occasion. It needs a helper virus to grow, so it can't duplicate in your body. But the problem is it can only develop, or it can only deliver a small piece of genetic material. And so in order to do the gene therapy that we published the paper on here, this was my results. To do 2 genes, we had to make 2 different therapies. And so that came at quite a cost, because it's twice the cost. You have to pay for each gene therapy individually. We went on to treat patients with dementia with 2 genes as well, with HTERT and Clotho. I took this gene therapy before they did. And it was wonderful. It increased their cognitive abilities. It basically improved their biological age score in the telomere lengths. And one person even went from living in assisted living to living on her own. So it wasn't a cure. One person had no effect. 3 people had cognitive benefits, and 1 person seemed to have a major effect. This was something we really wanted to move forward, so we took this to the US FDA. And after all of the work that we had done, the purification data, the human study, they just told us to go back and do millions and millions of dollars more of animal studies. And so at that point, our company switched gears and decided that we would license our technology, because that would be more beneficial to the world than us focusing on one drug. We can make a multitude of drugs, and we can actually make better drugs because we have experience. And so we went back to the drawing board with Rutgers University in 2018 and decided to create a vector that could deliver multiple genes. And this is it. It's called cytomegalovirus, and it is a large vector. In animal studies, it was redosable, and this would be really great for people to easily redose a gene therapy. That would make some changes in the course of treatment. We were able to give it intranasally and have just the benefit as we did injecting it into the mice, which means that people might be able to just go home and snort their gene therapy and get it into their entire system and treat things like neurodegenerative disease and frailty. And it can last in the blood longer than AAV can, because it has, it's kind of immune privileged. It has genes that kind of hide it from the immune system. So if you're interested in that paper, that's in PNAS, and you can go and you can read about this gene therapy and what it did to the mice. It definitely increased lifespan in the cohorts of TERT and follistatin. It helped bring their blood sugars down. It maintained or increased body mass, which is important to an aging population, and task performance was increased across the board. The best performance, though, was with just telomerase reverse transcriptase, but follistatin performed very well indeed. So just to finalize what we're doing at Bioviva and how this would associate to humans, if the work in mice exactly reflected into how humans were affected by these therapies, the mice, when we started treatment, would have been about the age of 56 to 62. There's some argument there. And the untreated mice then, if they were humans, would have died around 78, which is very common for a human lifespan. So if we behave just like mice do, and we just took the follistatin treatment, we might all live to be 90. And not only live to be 90, but have many more years of health. Because remember, all these genes confer more health span, because that's the point. If we took telomerase reverse transcriptase just by itself, and we were similar to mice, and we then would live to be over 110. And so the goal of the company is really to combine these genes and to see if we can get actually a super wave. And that means adding things together and having a much bigger effect for targeting more hallmarks of aging. This is the company's team. They're fantastic, from people who have worked in big pharma to university specialists to George Church, who is, the professor of genetics at Harvard, to medical doctors and visionaries of aging research like Aubrey de Grey. So we're very thankful for that. So if you want me to stop there, I can. The rest of it gets into the companies that we have licensed the technology to, and the things that they're moving forward to do with the technology.
Okay, Liz, that is fantastic. In fact, maybe some of the additional material could be talked about in some of the questions.
Okay.
Because, yeah, there is a lot of interest, and we have people both here online and also on YouTube watching the live transmission. And there is a lot of interest, and this is a great presentation to put in context what is gene therapy and what can be done with gene therapy. So we actually have a question online, which I find very interesting, from a woman, Alma Omares. She's asking in terms of reproductive technologies, if you could use these to delay the, well, not the menstruation, but the whole reproductive process to have children later in life, for example, or how do you see gene therapies in terms of making babies and delaying the birth timing?
Well, actually, that's a really good question, because the clocks that deal with a woman's fertility are different than the clocks that we're looking at when we look at cellular aging. So we're really, as women, tied to how many eggs that we have. So if there was a way to delay hormonally those eggs from coming to fruition over our younger lifespan into our older lifespan, that might be one way to do it. You can definitely rejuvenate ovaries with different technologies in regenerative medicine, but it still comes down to the healthy eggs that you have. But one of the really exciting things that's happening in gene therapy is we're being able to take cells, even skin cells, and we can reprogram them, and they are finding that we can actually create life out of different cells of our body. So even if you, let's say, are in your 60s and you don't have any viable eggs anymore, in the future, that may not limit you to having your own children. As long as we have your genome in your cells, we will have the ability to actually build life from that, and even traditionally. So in what will look like a traditional sense of building life.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. Also, since you are a woman, you are aware of the problems of reproduction. So I think this is important, because now people are living longer and longer, and they are having children later and later.
Yeah. And it's not just reproduction. I mean, think about it. Menopause causes a lot of problems in the body. It causes a cascade for women of health issues. So with these gene therapies in regenerative medicine, we can address those issues. So that's not a problem. But yeah, the right to have children and continue to have children. I wish I would have had, so many children. I only had 2, and I know that I'm lucky to have had those 2 children, but I love children, and I would love to be able to continue to have children later in life. But you may also be asking this question due to the aging associated issues that come with menopause, and those will be addressable for sure.
Beautiful. We have actually several questions by women. I'm really happy to see many women asking questions on the YouTube channel, but we also have several people connected here. So let's give a chance to someone here in the Zoom if they want to ask a question. Otherwise, I will read the questions from the YouTube channel. So anyone volunteers from the people connected here? I would propose Madalena. She has questions about everything. So Madalena, I'm pretty sure you have something to ask. We have to unmute you.
Muted.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself, Madalena, and then we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Good.
And congratulations first for everything you did. Very impressive. And well, I'm happy to see a woman in this space doing so much. Not just being there, actually being a pioneer in many fields. I think you're talking about regulations and all the time it will take for these things to be better known by the public and to the market. And for example, you have this test. Obviously, I work a lot in kind of symptoms reduction and reversal in Alzheimer's dementia. So obviously, the test you did is very good. And actually, I understand from what you displayed that the MMSE test kind of got improved for 13 people. So you got some results on that, which is good. But then when you wanted to take it to the next level, you got, like they say, okay, millions and millions and millions just to be taken seriously. And I think that it's a problem you and I will not solve it today. Mm-hmm. But we surely should be doing something about, from the time we have something which is a good idea, it works, it gives results, how can we get it quicker? And how can we have companies like yours or even what I do just kind of be more sustaining what we do? Because it's not a joke. Like this year, I think US will spend more than $700 billion on Alzheimer's costs. And if it's so urgent and so important, why should you, Liz, come up with I don't know what to move forward if you have already results? So I think it's a challenge, and I don't think we will solve it now, but I was just wondering, what did you do after you had this test? Because I think you had this test, I probably seen you like something like 2 years ago, this 5 people test you did. I think you reduced some beta amyloids and in the process and something like that. I think I've seen a video like 2 years ago about that. Yeah. What kind of support and kind of not big support you got once you did that?
Yeah, I think that that's a problem that we see across the board with regenerative medicine companies and especially cancer companies that we talk to. The minute that they have something that's very promising, kind of everyone disappears. The people that you need the most, which are the regulators, they come in and they try to figure out how to more heavily regulate it with things that are unpredictable of outcome. So, for instance, us having human data and bringing that to the regulators, as you know, that overrides any animal data, because animal data from other species is not predictive of really how drugs will work in humans.
And mostly in Alzheimer's, where they came with a lot of theory because it worked on mice, they came to humans, they ended up with brain inflammation, hemorrhagic states and whatever. It was an absolute disaster actually from this particular disease when they went from mice to humans. So, but you went with something in humans, so.
Yeah, so
what happened next? That was 2 years ago. What happened next?
Well,
what happened? It's one of the biggest issue, medication on the planet in the US.
Thank you, and I think that this is what people should really be enraged about. So I spend about a third of my time working in regulations because people don't seem to get it in their head, because it's not them, that a lot of people are dying right now. And these therapies not only could help them, but it could help us then from the understanding that we glean from the studies make even better drugs that will help the people who are slowing the progress now when they become diseased. And there just doesn't seem to be, people really thinking ahead in that area, although it is now emerging. So you're going to see country after country. It's happening right now. I work on regulations. I've worked behind the scenes with several companies in countries. You're going to see the passing of laws that allow these drugs. And they will allow them not in a staunch regulatory body, but almost as a pre-regulatory zone for patients who are terminally ill. So it's become a hot interest of different companies and countries to come together and to converge and make this happen. So, we have been doing what's called an investigator-initiated clinical study for quite a while, and these are legal studies. They're ethically run, and they should be a mandate globally. Hopefully, we'll even get platforms like Best Choice Medicine that I work on in the United States eventually, but we need these all over the world. Spain really needs these. Let me turn off my alarm. Sorry, it's early here.
And let me ask some other questions that we are getting here from the YouTube channel. So let me read this to you, Liz. There are several questions, so let me read a couple of them so that you answer two of them. Question from Natalie Signorini. The question, is there any gene therapy trial on animals that we can film? This is a filmmaker, so she wants to film something about animals. I mean, she means, how can we show by examples in a documentary that your path is the future?
Well, they could talk to our team and our partners in China. They're going to be doing a non-human primate study, and it's going to be a nice study because it's in old non-human primates. These are, monkeys, and there'll be no sacrifices. I don't go for killing animals for studies, so I'm like this longevity person all the way around, I guess. So they could ask them if they could follow them. Again, we're just right now focused on making really good drugs, and they're doing the testing of those drugs over there now. So maybe that's a connection.
Okay, let me read another question from Miguel Lopez de Silanes. He's connecting from Florida. Can you go deeper on the effects of gene therapy in animals other than mice, like pigs or monkeys, genetically more similar to humans, and if the AI models can speed up adoption?
Well, follistatin was one of the really good models for it's one of the really good genes for going through a lot of animal models. And so it did go through non-human primates. There's a great study online that you can find with follistatin in non-human primates. It showed that it increased muscle mass, it made them healthier, and they followed them for a long time without negative health consequences. Gene therapy is a really expensive technology, so you don't typically see it in a lot of large animal models. And the non-human primate models have been vastly removed from the pipeline because people are concerned about ethical issues of drug testing in non-human primates now. So, you kind of have to prove that it's something that would actually make them healthier and not sicker. So again, companies rarely will go the extra mile for a non-human primate study anymore. We're doing it because our CMV delivery method is new and novel, and so it's a good testing route to put it through. And what was the second question? Oh, AI. Yeah, of course. AI is going to definitely speed things up. I just shared a paper yesterday. I'm not sure if it went out yesterday on my social or if it'll go out in the next few days. but there are now like ways to actually test the genome in a multitude of areas and start to use AI to try to interpolate gene interaction. Now, again, it's just interpolation and we have to double check it, but it gives us the ability to speed up the potential multitude of effects of genes.
Fantastic. Actually, there is someone here in the Zoom, Andres Buitrago. If you want to make the question yourself, or I can read what you typed. Andres, do you want to ask yourself?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so we listen to you, Andres.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Cordeiro. Nice to meet you, Dr. Liz. I am Andres Buitrago. I am Colombian Ambassador for Health Equity Nation. Yesterday I was talking with Dr. Cordeiro. He mentioned me that you did your first gene therapy treatments in Colombia, and I would like to explore how we can build partnership with them. If you are partnering right now with them, that's in a broad way that what I would like to know right now, and if you are cooperating with them.
Right now, we're not doing anything in Colombia. I would love to do work in Colombia again. That would be fantastic. We love Colombia. We do have one doctor that works in Colombia. And so, yeah, just reach out and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, actually, it's very nice. We have people connecting from Bogota, from Medellin, also from different cities in Colombia. So I'm happy to see this participation. I have another Spanish friend, Francisco González Linares. He writes in Spanish. I will translate to you. Will we take pills to rejuvenate and stop our biological clocks, or we will get vaccines? So basically, if it is a pill or if it is a vaccine. Second part, will it be enough to take just one pill or one vaccine, or it will be multiple ones? How long will it take to show the effects of these therapies?
That is a really interesting question. So there is different technology emerging, and I'm working with a couple companies that are doing this. That are actually working on pills that will reverse your biological aging clock as far as your DNA methylation and acetylation. And this is something that we can do with gene therapy. It's called OSK factors. It's a well-known trick that you can do where you can reprogram a cell to be youthful but not take it so far back that it's differentiated, meaning that you can make a cell genetically look young again. Now that's just one part of aging. And so I think that probably if I could impart upon you one thing that's really important is don't fall in love with one fad of aging. So there is the epigenetic clocks. We have to reverse those. There's telomeres. We have to lengthen those. There's mitochondrial function. We have to reestablish it. It's not all or nothing. So it's not just NAD is going to make you live forever, or resetting your epigenetic clock is going to make you live forever, because actually you can reset the epigenetic clock in a model organism. It can look young, but it still doesn't live much longer because of things like telomere attrition and other limits. So we have to do all of those. But as I'm alluding to, there are some things that we can do with pills, and there are two companies I'm working with right now that have a stack of pills that are based in research. Some of it is based from Harvard labs, and they will be basically designed to reverse your epigenetic clock. Now, on top of that, you'll need to take the gene therapies to lengthen the telomeres and some other geroprotective measures. So I think that probably what it looks like for everyone is maybe every 5 years you take a few injections, and then maybe every 2 months, every 3 years, you take some pills, and then that will probably maintain your biological age and your health for an extremely long period of time. It may even get better than that. There are some slides that are in my deck also that deal with some other companies that I'm working with that will be delivering gene therapies in stem cells as well, also dealing with your stem cell attrition issue, and these will be your own cells and they'll be reprogrammed. And so this sort of technology stacking is where things get really interesting, but it's not going to be something that you have to do for 3 hours a day or, 2 weeks a month. It's really going to be kind of set it and forget it for a while and then reset it and then forget it for a while, because some of these gene therapies could last up to 10 years in your body or more. So, they'll be with you for a long time. So I'm trying to explain how the future looks. It's some interface with medicine, not as much as what we have today, in order to just try to maintain some amount of health.
Okay. People keep on asking questions and writing comments. One person called Fernando, he says that this is marvelous, this is impressive, very inspiring. Another person called Lucio says that you look so beautiful. Another person is asking, can we do these therapies in certain countries or fiscal or health paradises like Vitalia? Actually, someone is asking about Vitalia, which is in a small island in Honduras, in Prospera Roatan Island. Anyway, so you were in Vitalia yourself, so maybe you can talk about that and other places like you have been considering, I think, the Bahamas or other places, and when will this be taken mainstream to the USA and Europe?
Yeah, well, the Bahamas just signed a law to allow the use of gene therapy in a pre-regulatory zone, and that's really exciting. And right now they're just setting the rules so that when companies come in, they have guidelines so that safe technology comes in. There are other locations where you can get access to some genetic treatments now. There are also places all over the world where you can do gene therapies by consent. So you need to reach out to companies who do those. We work with a company called Integrative Health Systems, and they specialize in, they don't give gene therapies, but they specialize in connecting patients with medical doctors, and then they can proceed forward if they see that is something that both parties want to do. So these technologies do exist, and they exist in the world in ethical and moral sandboxes, and you'll see more of these actually popping up, maybe in the Middle East pretty soon, and in Asia as well. There is big interest to treat the aging population there with good technology. So it really is emerging, and I'm hoping, I've definitely already contacted the new politicians coming into the U.S. about, accepting my best choice medicine plan, because I think that completely deregulating things isn't the way to go. Actually, creating an ease of regulation for terminally ill patients so that we can get good data, make safe drugs, and then move them into more youthful populations to keep them from getting sick is probably the way to do it.
Okay, fantastic. Let me read also some quick comments and questions, also from many women. I'm really happy we have a lot of participation. For example, Ingrid Diaz Arevalo asks if these gene therapies could help to, how we could say, to eliminate adenomyosis. Gene therapies for adenomyosis. I don't know if you are familiar with that female disease.
I actually am not familiar with that disease, and so I'm sorry. She should definitely reach out to the company, and then we'd have a scientist look at it and send it back.
Okay, it is an uterus-related disease. I am not familiar either myself. I actually had to Google the word adenomyosis. So Ingrid, sorry, we are not knowledgeable about that disease. Anyway, two other questions here. Alma is asking if we could use artificial uterus after menopause?
I think that that is a really growing area of excitement. Replacing biology is very tough. There may be ways to do a new environment in a person's own body, and then of course there are surrogate people who carry children for people already. But I think that this is something that scientists have been working on for a very long time. It could probably come to fruition. There are ways now that they're able to take other embryos and they're starting to raise them to fuller stock, let's say. A human has a long gestation time. And arguably, what would be really cool is if you could double that gestation time. If you weren't limited by the biological size of the mother, because when babies are born, they're so super dependent. If they had longer gestation period, maybe they would be a little bit more prepared even when they're born. Maybe you could even stock their immune system up and everything else. But there is that definite loving touch between a mother and her child, and so hopefully we can still keep that really intimate connection as well.
Okay, we have another related question from Encarnacion, and she asked about menopause again. If some of these therapies will minimize the effects of menopause.
Yeah, for sure. So when you do, for instance, let's just look at one gene because it's been through safety and efficacy, so it makes it very easy to talk about without, pushing things that people would say, well, that's more experimental. So follistatin. Follistatin increases your muscle mass. Therefore, it increases your bone density, and that's been shown. And so that can help fight against things like osteoporosis. So, that, and then the metabolic boost that it gives you, the insulin sensitivity, this is really important for a failing metabolic system that we tend to see with menopause as well. So yes, even if you look at just a single gene it's a gene that doesn't even target exactly one hallmark of aging, you can see benefits. And then we do use genes that actually target exact hallmarks of aging. So yes, we could live healthier, longer, and menopause, won't be a thing. I mean, I honestly think that even hormones in the future will be something that we modulate. We have this incredible flush of hormones when we're young that are just driving us batty when we're really needing to do all this focus and education. It could be possible that we could delay that process. And actually, one of the startling things that we're seeing now with young women, young girls, is that the menses is coming on earlier. I mean, really young. Some girls 7 and 8 years old now are starting their menses, and that means they're starting their ovulation cycle. And when you start that, you're going to run out of eggs sooner. So they're basically losing a lot of viable fertility tools for the future. So the future human might be actually modulating things more on the early end hormonally than on the later end of our ages. And that is very controversial now, but it could be beneficial to the species. But as far as the physical aspect of menopause, we can target that by just reversing cellular aging. So that you won't have to worry about. But how many eggs you have, I know this is a continuing problem because today in the world, look, women still make less than men. We still don't have a strong equality. We're expected to work. We're expected to have children. We're expected to take care of those children. And you really, until you've established your career, you've done all of this education and established a career, you wouldn't even have time or the money to put your best effort into doing that. So there's a lot of crunch for women because right when we finally have the bandwidth to maybe have children, we're out of eggs. and it's a startling consequence of modern society as it is now. I think it will change vastly for the future.
Okay, we have 2 more questions from people in the Zoom chat. If Jose Cruzet wants to make the question, or I'll read it, and the same David. If David, you want to ask the question, or I'll read it. Jose, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead with your fantastic question.
Yeah, well, I'm taking NMN because of the results that it increases it. Well, at least it reduces the shortening of the telomeres. Can you compare how NMN works? Well, let's say the gene therapy, how much better it is by comparing to taking NMN?
Well, when we look at, so I work with Bill Andrews, and he is the best person. So if you send a question like that to the company, he will answer you. But how he has always answered me is that by using small molecules in these processes of nutraceuticals, they have never been able to extend the telomeres. The gene therapy does do that definitively. I have, oh my gosh, on here, I have my last telomere results that just came in. And they're even longer. And this is something that outside of doing something disruptive to the body that actually makes it so your bone marrow turns over and you have the appearance of longer telomeres. Now you can actually take a toxic dose of a substance, and that would make your bone marrow turn over, and you would have the appearance of longer telomeres. And that's probably what happens when people go to space and they have this short span where they have long telomeres, and then all of a sudden they're short again. As a matter of fact, they're even shorter. So you always have to be careful what you're doing. Remember, I'm not against it, but when you're taking a nutraceutical, you are taking a never before seen dose of something that doesn't really exist naturally in nature, right? So I don't know what results you're getting with your telomeres. You should talk to him about it. He is a specialist in that. I am not a specialist in M. I actually, if I take like an NAD booster, since I've taken the gene therapies, I actually don't feel very good. I think that my cells don't like to be driven. They like to be in stasis, but I just wanted to show you guys my telomere leg.
Very good. Very good.
So this is it continues to increase. Now, if NMN, sorry because I said that wrong last time. If it actually is keeping your telomeres from shortening, that's fantastic. That is great. If it could lengthen them, hey, fantastic.
No, it does not lengthen them.
If it keeps them from shortening, I think that's great. That would mean that it would be putting them in your cells into some sort of more stasis and less cellular turnover, or maybe better cellular replication. I think that like one thing, especially if there's a lot of ladies listening, don't exfoliate your skin. Don't do things that create lots of cellular turnover. Because when your cells have to divide, your telomeres are going to get shorter. And telomeres are, in 24 species, definitively linked to the lifespan of those species, including humans. So it's not how long your telomeres are, it's how fast they shorten. So some species have very long telomeres. It's the rate of shortening, even if they die with long telomeres, it's the rate of shortening between what is them naturally at a young rate and when they die. So, really preserve your cells. But I'm glad that you're getting that result with nutraceuticals. There are some really interesting drug combinations that are coming out in this reprogramming area not also, because you're not claiming that, but they actually claim to be lengthening telomeres, but these are drugs. Some of them are hard drugs, and I'm really excited to see the data on this. So it could be that you'll be able to take a pill with some nutraceuticals, because that's great, because you should support your cellular health, and lengthen your telomeres and reset your epigenetics and do a whole bunch of other things. So let's see.
Let's hope. Thank you.
Okay, David Garcia, since you are in the Zoom, do you want to say your question, or do I read it?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi. Hello, Liz.
Hi.
Actually, I have lots of questions, so you can just cut me when
Okay,
you are bored. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you just said that gene therapy is active in human body around 10 years. Did I hear correctly?
They can be. They're actually they're still listed by the U.S. FDA as a one treatment for a lifetime cure. We're not sure about that. Now we have a lot more established data in gene therapy that shows that protein levels can start to subside. And since it's somatic cell delivery, these cells likely, when they divide, don't take the gene therapy with them, or when they die, of course, they don't leave the gene therapy in the body. So what was once thought of as a one-time curative treatment is now considered a probably redosable need.
So gene therapy does never get into stem cells?
Well, we're working on a way to get it into stem cells, and some gene therapy does. When they do CRISPR therapy for sickle cell anemia, they're curing sickle cell anemia now. They do that into stem cells, and so
But how does this therapy distinguish somatic cell and a stem cell? Is that possible?
Okay, yeah. So what they do in that case is they do what's called ex vivo gene therapy. So they selectively take cells out of the body and they put them in a dish, and then we transfect those cells with gene therapy, and then we wash those cells, and then we select the cells that have the gene therapy, and we put those back into the body. And so it's not as easy as just directly injecting it into the body. But it makes it so that you have a more directed and targeted therapy. Now, when we do an intravenous gene therapy, it probably does hit the bone marrow, and that's probably why my telomeres and my T lymphocytes are long, is because it probably did, in fact, affect those cells. If you really wanted to go for regeneration of your body over 5 to 7 years, and you had 5 to 7 years time to do that, if you could target every stem cell in your body, that would be the route to go.
The ideal therapy, yeah.
Yeah, that would be ideal. But otherwise, if we're just going to do stem cells, there's a drug that we can give patients that makes their stem cells essentially drop into their blood system, and then we do plasmapheresis, and then we pull the specific stem cells out. There's 3 types that we get, and then we can divide those 3 types, and each one of those types of stem cells is good for a different treatment. So some of those stem cells are really good for the use in your brain for cognitive disorders, and some cells are better for certain organs or muscle deficiencies. And so that's a company that's coming. You're going to see it come online. It's called Vetracell. It's under the title name RegenCell. And its focus is specifically stem cells and doing gene therapies to stem cells.
And currently, is there any way to control the transcription of the gene therapy, or you are just using the wild type promoters for the genes you are inserting?
Well, actually, we were one of the first companies to come forward to start controlling the promoter. Where gene therapies traditionally started was in the monogenic disease state, where they wanted to upregulate as much of a protein as they possibly could at one time. So,
yeah, but, I mean, I'm said because you just said that when you are taking a supplement or something, you are exposing yourself to a dose that is not natural, but that can also happen with gene therapy. You are exposing yourselves to a non-natural level of transcription of that protein. So
yeah, exactly. And so when they started with the CMV promoter. Now we use CMV, but we use it as a gene therapy delivery. CMV promoter makes the gene produce a lot of protein, but over time it will be silenced. And for 2 reasons. 1, it's not a human promoter. And 2, it is replicating an enormous amount, and your cells know how to regulate themselves. They know when something isn't quite right, and they'll basically break it down and destroy it. So we started using human promoters, and so you can use promoters that are specific to different tissues, and that can control the gene therapy in those areas. And you can also use human promoters that are more ubiquitous, but are high-level performers, almost as high as CMV, but won't get silenced. And so that's typically where we work in that space, just for that reason, so that your cells don't say, hey, who is this? You know, I've got, there's a stranger in my house, or there's somebody creating a lot of clutter here, and a lot of messy clothes. They're not doing their laundry because too many, you know, these great proteins. I want to throw them out, and they will throw them out. So yeah, so thanks for asking that question. Yeah, your body knows. That's a great thing about using your cells as a drug factory, is that your cells, your body can regulate even gene therapies to an extent.
Thank you, Liz.
Sure.
Okay, Liz, we have many more questions. Let me take 3 more, because otherwise we would be taking all of your time.
And I want to say it's been so nice waking up with you, because Jose knows I'm at a conference in Mexico, and it was late nights and early morning, and it's just been so much fun waking up with all of you.
So 3 quick questions here. 2 are related to prices, which is a normal concern of everybody. So one question by George Barahona from Venezuela, connecting from Caracas. He's asking, what is the average cost of these therapies? Number 1. And then let me continue with another question from Francisco Gonzalez Linares. He's asking, when will this be available? Maybe by 2045? Maybe before, and is Ray Kurzweil right on his timeline for the singularity and longevity escape velocity?
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a very good questions. You know, right now, gene therapies are considered the most expensive drugs on the planet, and I think that that's by design. I feel that what the world is trying to show is that we cannot afford these therapies, and you can't afford them, and that's just not true. So when we look at a gene therapy in the United States, if your child was born with spinal muscular atrophy, you either have $2 to $5 million, it varies based on the weight of the child, or your child dies of that disease. That's really unethical. It's unnecessary. When we look at offshore development of these technologies in these early regulatory paths, these pre-regulatory paths that are run legally, we're looking at a fraction of that cost, but it's still expensive. It's still like in the $100,000 to $300,000. But you can see in comparison by scale, that is a lot less. As more people are doing them, that this will become very ubiquitous. I mean, it'll be affordable. Probably governments will even pay for it. I think that we could easily get the cost down to $50,000 for a gene therapy. And remember, this is something you don't have to take a pill every day. You take a shot, and for 10 years you forget about it. And there's a lot of power to that technology. So the more people we treat, the less it's going to cost. As far as his trajectory, you know, it really all depends on people demanding access to medicine, because the thing is that even with all the AI in the world and all of these great treatments that have already shown benefits in model organisms, unless people demand access to the technology, it doesn't get developed. What we found is investors are very eye on the prize sort of thing. They every new shiny thing that comes, they go and invest in that. And we really need to follow up on medicine. We have to follow up on living longer so we can see new technologies happen. We need to invest in this space so that these drugs, each one of them gets developed enough so we know how it works, and in combination with other drugs, how it works and how to solve a big problem. Again, remember we went over that question about what does a future therapy looks like? Well, it looks like taking some pills and some injections and some stem cell rejuvenation and things like that. But that doesn't happen overnight. That might happen for some very rich people right now who go and do those kind of things, but that doesn't happen for the rest of the population, and it's not enough data to mandate the drugs for everyone. So we have to get out there. We've got to really push our governments towards approving these technologies, at least for the terminally ill. And then we have to remember we are all terminally ill. We are all dying from biological aging. And so therefore, we have to treat that like that's happening today for us to get access to the drugs when we need them. So I'm not very good on dates because I feel like a bunch of this should have already happened. I feel like we should be right on the precipice of longevity escape velocity based on the technology we already have, but we don't have it in enough bodies to prove that. It's absurd.
Okay, that's a good point in terms of longevity escape velocity, because that was the question of someone. If we could reach this by 2030, just let me say something, because Evolution Foundation in Saudi Arabia is financing this X Prize, HealthSpan X Prize, with the X Prize Foundation, which is the biggest prize in human history, $101 million. If we rejuvenate 10 years at least by 2030. So this is the goal, and this is creating a lot of momentum. So I am still very optimistic that we might reach longevity escape velocity by 2030. One, because Ray Kurzweil is committed to it, and two, is because of this new X Prize for 2030. So what do you think about that? And then there is one final question.
So I'm going to talk to Peter Diamandis here at this conference on Sunday. That's what we're going to talk about, the X Prize, and I'm going to be on stage with one of the companies that Bioviva is licensing to that has entered the X Prize. And then I've got another company that is just in the United States, not too far from here, who has also entered the X Prize to win it. I mean, I think that it's really exciting. I think that it really, the $101 million, I mean, should just be given to 50 companies so that they can traject to doing their research and development. But I think that it's a nice incentive, and it certainly worked in privatized space travel, didn't it? That was the first X Prize. It got, I think it was only like $1 million or something prize.
10 million.
Yeah, people spent like 10 times that to win the prize. And so I think it's exciting. And what I'm working on is making sure that there's a regulatory zone that we can actually do the testing, because, you know, as by the guidelines of the X Prize, you have to prove in humans in a legal regulatory zone that you have actually accomplished those tasks within 7 years. And so, you know, part of my job is to make sure that we have a zone that is up and running very quickly in order to get these drugs tested.
Okay, we have one final question, which is very interesting, from Italy. Natalie Signorini asks,
Italy.
Do your family members, husband, children, relatives, take the gene therapies that you took, and so that you are not alone and lonely one day in the future?
Are they going to take them?
If they are taking it. And how many more people are taking some of these therapies, I think?
Well, actually, quite a lot of people are taking these therapies through private means now. I think we have the data on 52 or 53 people now, but there is a lot more data that we don't get. So we only get data if a person signs that we can see their data, and most people don't. So we work with companies that offer these type of technologies in combination with, they have to show the data and we have to scientifically publish the data. So there are a lot of people now who are participating in these type of therapies. And you're just going to see that growing. And of course, you know, we want to use that data. So if anyone is listening and they go forward to take one of those, please share your data with us. You know, make sure you're using a provider who is going to be accountable for the science and not just give you something and that we don't know what it is. We need to know what it is. We need to have, it signed off on that the study is ethical, even if you're a relatively healthy person. And we want to use that data to make better drugs. So I'm not sure if I've answered that question or not, but yes, there are definitely, I'm not the only genetically modified person anymore, like by a long shot.
Yeah, fantastic. But any family members? Have you
My
convinced-
family. My husband now is saying, okay, I have to take the gene therapies. I'm tired of this. You have to give me these gene therapies. And so we'll see if he's going to do it. He's a lot more shy about taking new risks than I am. And my kids, I intend to live a very, very, very long time with them. So when they're ready, I would love them to join me. And
Beautiful.
all of you too, because like-minded people for the future, we need to make the future a better place together. So if you ever do it, reach out to me and let me know.
Yes, many of us will be probably taking some gene therapies in the future. And
I'm
we
sure.
are so happy and so proud that you took the leadership in being the first patient zero in this therapy. So we are very grateful to what you are doing. We are very happy. We are learning a lot, and we are taking your message into Spanish language as well. So
Awesome.
yes,
That's amazing.
yes. And because you will be living longer and longer, you will have enough time to learn Spanish.
Yeah, and I know a little bit. I can't speak it. It's so bad. I can say muchas gracias, but that's like anything else is like just you'll make fun of me. You'll make fun of me for sure.
Well, anyway, it was a pleasure to have you today virtually with you, and also a few weeks ago in Alicante in Spain. And we hope to have you again soon back in Spain and in Europe. So thank you so much, Liz. It is really an honor for us to have you and to open this session of interviews in English with you. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.